All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, hanging out at Radio Row in Los Angeles. CBD American Shaman. Come on into your local Shaman store for a free sample of stress-sacking CBD. CBD American Shaman, everything is better with the feather. Aaron Taylor joining us here at Radio Row in Los Angeles. CBS Sports Network, played in the NFL with the Packers and the Chargers for a little bit. Got himself a Super Bowl ring and is here on Radio Row with us. Aaron, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. This is like a NFL reunion. Everybody that's ever been anybody, if you played in the NFL, this is the week that you want to come and you bump into old friends. And every twist and turn, I bump into somebody that I knew, played with, played against, or haven't seen in 10 years or, everything in between. So it's really a festive time to come, and especially we're talking about some things that matter as well in addition to the football game. But it's just it's a good reunion, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have you on, but it's also nice, not nice to have you on when I'm like, all right, welcome into the show, blah, 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 and then you come on, you're like, hey, what's going on, everybody, and you got the voice, and it's like, it's really intimidating.
Is it intimidating?
Yeah, I mean, you've already got the stature, you play in the NFL, I mean, you're probably better at my job than I would be at your main job of being an offensive lineman. I don't know, I've never tried.
Not today. Not today.
Just can you take it down an octave or two?
I will. I'll use my non-broadcast voice so that
Aaron.
the fans can fully appreciate Jason's deep pipes and don't have to worry about mine.
Very insecure over here. Very insecure. Aaron Taylor is our guest, though. In all seriousness, though, you're hanging out here at Radio Row with the Global Mental Health Alliance.
Yeah.
So tell me what this is about.
Yeah, so Same Here Global is an organization that was created to further the conversation, to expand it around mental health. My why, Jason, is that I've lost 8 dudes that completed suicide, and I'm tired of it. We're losing too many folks to mental health, and the conversation as it is now is binary. You're either sick or you're not, when the reality is it's actually a continuum. Everybody to a certain degree, especially these last 2 years, is affected with something. Well, I've had friends that have been divorced. I've had friends that have lost businesses. I've held my own son who's cried himself to sleep because he was missing his friends and couldn't go to practice. We've all been out here winging it and going through it the last couple years. So Same Here Global is a global alliance of well-known sports stars and celebrities and musicians, but also everyday people, doctors, CEOs, execs, Joe Q Public, that are getting together to share their voice, their Same Here hero story, if you will, to let people know what it was like, what they did about it, and what it's like now. We treat it as a stigma, and I think we need to continue to expand the conversation to have the reality is just like having a bad back. You got a bad back, Jason, I'm going to tell you 3 different stretches to do some band work, go see this chiropractor. But if you tell me you have depression and anxiety, all of a sudden, you don't want to talk about that. So we try to shed light on a dark subject matter, and you have people like Shamiqua Holdsclaw, who is a great basketball player, Hunter Henry, the tight end from the Atlanta Falcons. You have people that have gone through things that freely share that, and you go, you know what? They're going through stuff, too. It's not that we're perfect role models. We're coping role models, man. I had deep-seated insecurity as a football player on the dais winning the Lombardi Trophy.
Wow.
Waiting for somebody to stand up in the back of the room and say, hey, Taylor, I saw what you did the 3rd series of the Michigan State game. You suck. Because sometimes, for whatever reason, the way my brain is wired, that's the voice I hear. So, of course, I've figured out how to compensate for that and work around it, just like we saw Simone Biles have to do from being sexually abused from Larry Nassar, who's a convicted rapist for 20 flipping years. Like, the fact that she's been able to accomplish what she's been able to do despite those things she's been through, the causes and conditions of mental health, that should be celebrated. So that's kind of how we're looking at it. We want to change the global narrative. It's a global problem, and we're a global solution. SameHereGlobal.org is a place that people can go for resources to help themselves, to help their loved ones, to be part of the conversation, to share their story, to help inspire people so that we can all enjoy a better version of this incredible life we've been given.
Aaron Taylor is our guest. You played football your entire life, and you mentioned some friends that you've lost throughout the time. Do you ever, fear that of yourself, that maybe there's something going on that you don't know and can't diagnose right now that was clearly going on with some of your friends and from years of playing football? Do you have that fear, or do you just live your life and say whatever happens, happens?
No, Jason, that's a great question, and really I want to honor you for having the courage to ask that, because that's not an easy question to ask. The answer for me is no.
Okay.
I'm a lucky one. suicidality and suicide ideation has never been part of my journey. I've been sober for 20 years, so I've been in recovery a long time. I come from a family of alcoholics, my grandfather, my father, and me. I've got a kid that eats so fast right now. He's out of breath at times. Like, that stuff runs in our family. But I've been able to be a part of networks and organizations and friends and take my stuff and put it out on the table and deal with it as it comes. Retirement was really hard for me, and that's kind of when the rubber met the road for me. So thankfully that's not been the case. But unfortunately for Junior Seau it was. And I walked him into his first meeting of recovery, and I was really encouraged when he said that he was a sex addict, a gambling addict, and a drug addict, and alcoholic, because he was being honest. He was finally honest with himself. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough, and we know that posthumously when he had an autopsy that he had CTE. So his ability to be able to process everyday things that we all go through, divorce, financial struggle, sense of loss and identity through retirement, that those felt super big to him, and he unfortunately decided to complete his suicide. And it's unnecessary. I think if we were more compassionate as a group, and with this global alliance that we're forming through Same Here Global, I think we can shift that conversation and save more people, get them in the huddle with us so that they know they're not alone and that they can do it too.
Aaron Taylor is our guest. It's a football quote, but I think it works with the conversation now. Charlie Strong, when he coached at Louisville, they were trying to turn that program around, right? I mean, it was a rough few years, and they had gotten to a point to where they went back to a bowl, and he said, we're not where we want to be, but I'm glad we're not where we were.
Yeah, buddy.
And I feel like when you're talking about that, we're not where we want to be in terms of talking about this openly with compassion and empathy and viewing it as, like you say, a back injury or something like that. But I'm glad we're not where we were, where it was suck it up and walk it off. Too bad. You're just weak-minded.
Yeah, buddy. It's progress, not perfection, and we're making progress. But, Jason, we need folks like you. Like, it can't be my voice. It can't be just Hunter Henry's voice. It has to be all of our voices. We got to be better teammates to ourselves. We got to be better teammates to our others. We have to be thoughtful and ask those challenging questions of loved ones. Hey, you've ever thought about harming yourself? Like, we're looking, there's a 500% increase in self-harm by young teenage girls in these last 2 years. Like, what social media and some of these things are doing to the mental health of young people is concerning. So the more that these things come on and the more resources that people have to be able to deal with some of these things, the more solutions and the better outcomes we'll have. So I commend you for having me on and talking about this, asking me that tough question. So go to the website, samehereglobal.org, click the button, share your story, or pick up some tools that can help you or somebody you love, and go enjoy your damn day.
Aaron Taylor is our guest, and it's enjoyable talking to you. It's not an easy transition from that to then say, hey, let's talk sports.
Let's do it,
right? But I do want to get your thoughts on this matchup just in general, because, I wonder if there's an element of this game that will bring back memories of a year ago when the Chiefs' offensive line was as banged up and that Bucs defensive front was so good. The Rams are so good defensively up front, and the Bengals' offensive line has been suspect. You played offensive line. What do you think about this matchup, and do you think it comes down to the Bengals' offensive line doing enough to protect Joe Burrow?
There's no question. Styles make fights, right? So you have the glitz and the glamour and the style of all of the stars on both sides of the ball, L.A., and then some other dudes from Cincinnati and a pretty good quarterback, right? So you have the strength of the Rams and their defensive front, to your point, the Von Millers, the Aaron Donalds, the Leonard Floyds, all 9.5 or more sacks. I mean, those dudes are creatures. They pin their ears back and they come, and they're going to be going against an offensive line that gave up the third most sacks in the NFL. Whoever wins that matchup will likely win the game. To your point, last year we saw Patrick Mahomes get neutered when his offensive line was ragtag and put together, and that was the difference for Tampa. Yes, Tom Brady was still on the field. Yes, they scored some points, but their offense, you have a bad offensive line, you could take Tom Brady and turn him into Tom and Jerry. Like, you take away their strength because you're running around for your life. Now, part of the reason they gave up so many sacks is because Joe Burrow also likes to hold the ball a little bit long. So he's part of that problem. So a key to keep your eye on is whether or not Cincinnati can distribute the football quickly enough to where they can't get in some obvious passing situations, because that'll be playing right into the strength of the Rams.
Rams or Bengals? Who you got?
Man, there's on paper, the Rams should win this matchup. They're better on defense. Their strength is matches up well with the offense. But there's something about a team that can give up 9 sacks and find a way to win against Tennessee and go on the road and beat Patrick Mahomes in his home track after being down 3 touchdowns and make those adjustments on both sides of the ball. The trend is your friend in the NFL, and I'm trending with the Bengals.
We'll see what happens. Aaron Taylor, samehereglobal.org. You're the man. I really appreciate you joining us today, bud.
Likewise, Jason. Let's do it again, brother.